Um, Hello all. This is today we have Vignesh Srinivasan, our alumni, 2013-17 batch. Let me give you a very short introduction about Vignesh Srinivasan. Today he will be giving you a motivational talk on the topic importance of research and the practical way of studying. So I hope this will help our students to choose their path towards research because most of you would not know or you may be in a confused state like how to choose your research and what is the area of interest you would like to pursue your research. It's my privilege to introduce Vignesh Srinivasan, and I'm proud to say that I was supervising his project during his bachelor's. Currently, he is working as an artificial engineer, and his main domain of interest is computer vision. And he has recently appointed as an artificial intelligence engineer. And his domain in his job would be precision agriculture. So he has completed his master's in computer science and engineering in Eindhoven University of Technology, Netherlands. And you all know, like he has completed his bachelor's in SRM University. And some of his interesting projects, which is currently active, are he is doing activity recognition in videos for automated patient monitoring system at Philips Research. And two more projects is currently active, and he has done automated anomaly localization for road accident detection from traffic surveillance camera feed. And the third project, which is in an active, which is currently active, is brain tumor detection and segmentation on MRI scan using artificial intelligence. Vignesh, it's over to you. So you may start your presentation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just hello,
We can hear you.
hello.
Yes, Vignesh, we can hear you. You're able to share the screen?
Please.
Vignesh, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear
Yeah.
you. There was
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, ma'am. Just a moment. Ma'am, can you see the presentation? Ma'am? Ma'am? Um,
Hello.
Hello, ma'am. Can I start the
Yeah.
presentation?
Yeah. Yeah. You can start.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Hello, guys. Sorry for the delay. There was a little bit of glitch on my system, but I fixed it now. I'm Vignesh Srinivasan. Pushpalata ma'am gave me a kind introduction. I did my bachelor's in computer science and engineering at SRM University of Technology in the year 2013 to 2017. Afterwards, I did my master's in computer science and engineering with a focus on artificial intelligence at Eindhoven University of Technology in the Netherlands. Throughout my bachelor's and master's, I found that practical way of learning is very, very important if we want to become an efficient computer science engineer in general. And now I would like to share my experience and what I have learned so far in the small presentation or with the topic importance of research and practical way of studying. Yes. So I would like to first start with asking, what is engineering? We all have been, many of us are here in this domain, and I unfortunately, from my experience, even during my bachelor's, I have found out that not all the students are very much aware of what actually engineering means, what it is, what are the applications of engineering, what are the domains of different domains of engineering. Sure, everyone knows about ECE, triple E, mechanical, computer science, software, whatnot, but they do not really understand like the core of why do they want to do engineering. So to give a like this picture, this slightly gives us an idea of different domains of engineering over the years. It all started with us developing and designing something for farming for our agricultural needs, and then it went on to become for our structural safeties like homes, temples, palaces. And then nowadays in the modern world, we have unlocked like certain level of engineering that a person from 5-10 centuries ago would probably think as a dream. Now we have fast mode of transportation like electric trains, jet trains, flights, and also robots. And also we have areas of research in agriculture, biotechnology, and computer science is a huge, huge world on its own. So one could easily say that engineering is like an amalgamation of science and technology in order to build something that actually serves a human purpose. So, with this beautiful concept of engineering in mind, now we can look at what is computer science. Sure, in a very, very layman's term, what is a computer? It's basically a device that does some computing for us. And with this definition, it has started as a very, very huge machines like what we can see in this picture to very, very portable computers like a MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, or even our smartphones. It all does some sort of computing that helps us to do a task very easily for us. So with this concept of computer science in mind, computer science and engineering, now we have to look at it from a very, very broader perspective that it is a field that humans have developed for using computers and for computers and with computers, you can say that to serve different needs of humans. So, with this concept of engineering, we have to understand that engineering in its own and computer science in its own is very, very a practical application. Like it's a practical oriented studies. It cannot be studied through simply by bugging up books, by reading books. No, it has to be on a research oriented path. It has to be on a practical oriented path. But how do we, most of us at least, study during our bachelor's? Mainly through books. Yes, we have lots and lots of books. And how do we study for that? How do we study from that? Well, instead of directly applying, not instead of directly practically implementing all the tasks, most of us will simply stick to reading 5 units, 5 chapters, 5 questions, and then proceed on to write our exams, get our score, and then move on to the next semester. And nowadays online resources are taking over. Books were gone are the days. Nowadays people have blogs, videos, audios, ebooks, papers, research papers, etc. Well, it is an arguable statement, because even when one study from the books are very much important, but even when one studies from the book, everyone would say, understand and study. But are we really understanding? This is a question that we have to ask whenever we read even a single paragraph. Now, problems of only books. Now, what I mean here is that for computer science and engineering, what are the problems that we usually face by reading only the books and not practically implementing or researching about it? Well, the first thing is that reading, what one experiences when they read from books is like it feeds the imagination. Yes, whenever we read a paragraph, our human minds will start to visualize stuffs, and we kind of understand what we are reading through our imagination. That is how general reading works. But does it lead anywhere from that? Yes, whenever we read suppose, let's say we read a concept from TCP/IP protocol, we try to imagine, we try to visualize what we are reading to understand what we are reading. But once that is done, does it lead anywhere? Do we want to practically implement it? Most of us do not go in that direction, and that is the problem of reading only with books. And the another point would be, it explains the fundamentals, but misinterpretations are dangerous. For example, the most efficient way, I would say, to read, to understand, to get exposed to the fundamentals of computer science is by reading books. But there are very, very like highly likely situations, especially when reading research papers. Misinterpretation could be a dangerous thing. What the author want to say and what I read and what I interpret from what I read could be, sometimes it could be a very, very different thing. And because in this research and practical world, that could actually cost us a lots and lot of time. And it could also, time is one thing, but it could also lead to some dangerous results if not properly monitored or studied. So fundamentals are known from the books, but misinterpretations could be a very, very dangerous thing. And that is a side effect that we get by reading only from books and not actually implementing or going in the research or practical way of studying. And the next thing would be retainment of knowledge. Yes, exactly. So we study and then we write our exams. We go through, we see a blog, we thought it is interesting, but afterwards, how long we would be able to retain that knowledge for future references, for future uses, is a huge question mark. Human mind has the tendency to remember only certain time period and certain areas. And if we are not keeping up with our studies throughout this period, and if we are not going to refresh our memories with new contents or on the old content itself, it is very likely that we would forget what we have read. That is the reason why, suppose for a student in third semester, he or she might have already forgot what they have read during their second semester, let's say, or during their first semester or on their high school. So because of this reason, reading only through books without practically implementing it or researching more about it could lead to dangerous side effects, such as completely forgetting what we have read. Then with this situation, we really have to understand that for engineering and computer science, implementing it, practically doing it, is the best way. Yeah. And yes, in this slide, I explain like why practicals are important. As I mentioned, engineering is kind of a living process. We are applying our imagination, we are putting our skills, we are putting our knowledge to design and build something that actually serves a purpose or that actually does something. So because of this, if you look at it, engineering is a very, very beautiful thing. And since it at its core, it's a practical studies, one should not only stick to just studying from the books, writing their exams. It will not actually serve their requirement to become an engineer actually. Yeah, getting your hands dirty is the only way to become an engineer, I would say, totally. For example, after my studies, I have figured that all during my interviews and during my job, what I have done, what I have practically worked on and done has been my biggest helper for my career. And also, that is what actually matters as an engineer. What we have studied, just studied, it might not be retained well, for everyone. But what we have done, like practically done with our own hands, the retainment period of that is very, very long than simply studying a blog or studying a book. And that would ultimately help one to become a true engineer or not just a textbook engineer. Yes. And after that, I also want to add that a man with 4 years of hands-on experience, yes, who had not visited a college, but with hands-on 4 years of hands-on experience, would probably have more skills, more knowledge than a 9.8 CGPA holder without any practical knowledge. By reading books, one can it might be possible to just read the books, maybe understand or not understand, but reproduce it on the paper, and then get the mark, and with that mark we see the score, and then we say, hey, I'm a 9.5 holder, I'm a 9.8 holder. But does it actually mean that you are a true engineer? Does it actually mean that you have learned what it is to work on an engineering project? Now, these questions are very, very important to ask at a very early stage itself, because when we learn, it is important that we incorporate research and practical way of studying. We have to understand why something has happened and what had led to that path, even from a simple concept to a very, very large concept. And if one cultivates this habit of viewing at that angle, one could actually become a very, very valuable engineer in this market, I would say. Now, what is the purpose of bachelor's in engineering, bachelor studies in general? Well, computer science is an umbrella term. It's a very, very broad term. Even the mentions that I have given here is not, it does not really cover everything that comes under computer science. So we have different semesters, and we have different courses in each of the semesters. But what one try to ultimately take away from each of this course? Do they try to explain us everything and then know everything? At the end of 4 years, we want to be specialized in everything? No, absolutely not. So the concept of the core foundation of bachelor's is that one should get exposure to different areas of computer science, different domains of computer science, to understand, to get a preliminary exposure to all these domains, and then choose one domain for themselves and then go with that. So during this bachelor's period, I highly urge every student to actually to try to practically engage in all these courses. For example, we have practicals for very, very important and major courses as part of our studies itself. Make full use of that. It would be very, very tempting to go to Stack Overflow or on the internet to get a code and then just memorize it. I have seen my own classmates doing that. Well, it might save you during for that one practical, but it does not help you. It does not actually help you at all during your practical life of being an engineer. So it is very, very important that you practically engage in all your practical session, research about the topic, ask questions to your professors, discuss with your friends, and these are the ways that you can train your brain and also help yourself to retain the knowledge that you're trying to learn, and also engage in the studies that you are working on. So afterwards, now I have put a simple do's and don'ts in bachelor's. Now, I also want to add, like, these are the stuffs that I felt that after my bachelor's, I should have done this, I should have done more on this, and I shouldn't have done this. So these are the points that I felt during after my bachelor's and once I have come to my master's, and I would like to share with all of you, so that maybe if one of you could take maybe one point, it might help you in your studies. The first and foremost thing I would say is find right friends. Yes, find right friends. but not a friend. Now that this right friends again can be interpreted in so many different forms. Who is a right friend? Who likes to go out with you, who likes to party with you, who likes to just chill with you. Is he the right friend? Yes, that he could be a right friend, that is a possibility. But for your professional life, for your career life, it is also important that you, if you want to be a true engineer, if you want to be a very good computer science, any different domains of computer science or any engineer in general, you must hang out with people. It might not be as evident, but ultimately what I had observed is that uh, if one gets to hang out with people who are also mutually interested in computer science or other domains of engineering in general, and not there just for the job security, the chances of them getting more excited about different concepts of computer science, and thus just about getting to read more, getting to research more, increases a lot. And when I say job security, I have seen people, the only reason that they have took computer science is because that they could might get a get a job as an IT engineer or in an IT company, and that's about it. But they don't want to do anything that is related to computer science. Well, it doesn't mean that these people are bad. Yes, people are good. These people are, I'm not saying that these people are bad and they are dangerous. No, not in that sense. But for your professional sense, it could be better that if you hang out or if you interact and be friends with a person who is also inclined towards studies and who also adores computer science, and not just for job security but passionate about the concepts, that could be a valuable boost for you. And since humans are social animals, we tend to interact a lot, and then our minds get stimulated whenever we hear a concept from someone else. So it is very, very important that you find right people, and also you can be the right friend for someone else too. So with these, so it is very important that you get hang out and discuss these stuffs, discuss computer science, be it any concept of computer science, but hang out with the right group, so to say, to keep your mind stimulated and also keep you inspired to do more of practical and research way of studying. And the next thing is simple, very simple. You're in computer science domain, practice programming. I know some of my friends who were not very much comfortable in programming even during the third years of their studies. Well, it might be daunting. I could understand why it is daunting. And for many students who did not have exposure to programming languages in their school itself, it could be overwhelming to see so many options. Yes, there are so many programming languages. We have tons and tons of tutorials for each of these languages. It could be very, very overwhelming. But start somewhere. It's not that difficult. Well, it may look that big or that daunting, but once we actually start to understand it, it is very, very difficult. What one should remember is that programming languages are created by humans. It doesn't exist as it is in nature. But even if we have ability to understand already what it is there in nature, we can very much understand what we have created for ourselves, right? It's just a programming, it's just a language created to tell a machine what to do. So practice programming. And also another important thing that I would say is that it's when we start programming, it's a side note. It could be easy to start programming in, let's say, Python, or nowadays modern languages like Go or Kotlin or new language. Well, they can get you to do the task, or they can excite you, because most of the stuffs in Python and all these languages have already been written in packages. So one just simply needs to call the function and then write it. But if one wants to really understand the concepts behind computer science and programming, I would highly recommend one to start with C or C++. These are like now it's still relevant, it's still applied even nowadays, but these are really old languages, and they are a little more difficult than these modern languages. But if one studies if one studies to do programming in C++ or C, one can actually understand how a computer works, how the memory operations in a computer works, how a pointer works, and how object-oriented programming came into existence. And when one has a strong grasp of these concepts, one can easily, very easily learn Python or any other modern languages and be a developer for this modern world if they have a very, very strong foundation. So I would highly recommend one to start programming, and preferably in C or C++, to get the concepts right. And as I mentioned earlier, bachelor's is about getting exposure to different domains of computer science. So give a chance to each course. Try to sit on each course to understand what your professor is doing, what your professor is explaining you, and try to engage in that course, research more about it, try to implement the concepts that you have that you are learning in your classes. And who knows, within this 4 years, I mean, I definitely something will likely resonate with you within these 4 years. Something would excite you. For example, for me, the courses that really excited me was artificial intelligence, and that happened to be at the very last at the seventh semester, if I'm not wrong. And after that course, I was really inspired to do my bachelor's project there. And after my bachelor's project, I was focused on my master's as well with the same domain in mind. And now I got a job which was very much similar to what I did in my bachelor's thesis also. So one has to give a chance to each of the course, try to engage in your studies, try to understand what is practically happening there, not just reading the books and writing the exams, but what is actually happening in that domain. Try to do a little bit of more research on it, and that could one would actually find something, a project that they connect with. For one of my friends, a very close friend of mine, he actually liked different domains of computer science. He was into microprocessor, he very much liked wireless networks, and he also likes artificial intelligence. When he wanted to do his masters, he wanted to do something that is a combination, that gives him a combination of different subjects. So he did his course on embedded systems with a specialization on artificial intelligence, and now working as a deep learning optimization engineer, which is a beautiful combination of what he wanted to study. So find a course that actually resonate with you and try to stick on to that course. And it is a daunting process. It takes a lot of time, but once you find something, you would be doing for a very big part of your life, and you would be very much excited to do that for your life. So it is very important that you find a course. No, it doesn't have to be one course, it could be multiple courses, but find courses that resonate well with you and be inspired by valuable professors. SRM has several gems indeed in that domain. My supervisor, she inspired me a lot during my studies. My class in charge madams, they all inspired me a lot. And their research was very much interesting to me. Their way of teaching was very much interesting to me. And because of all of them, computer science was very, very exciting for me. And that had now led me to where I am now. And I'm, for all the stuffs that I want to further pursue in my life, the foundation was through the inspiration that I got from them. So try to engage in each of the class. One professor would be, yeah, I understand that all the professors may not be inspiration for everyone will resonate with one professor, right? So try to engage in each of the class, try to interact with your professor, and I'm very sure that SRM has so many very, very like professors like gems, and you would resonate and be inspired by one of them, at least one of them. And that could be a good, very, very good foundation for your research, for your academic and professional career. And if all these things are too daunting for you in the beginning itself, I would say at least brainstorm, discuss ideas with the right friends that I previously mentioned. Most of the times we talk a lot, but we generally talk about movies or cricket or something else. Yes, those are fun parts of life, I understand, but even I have done that, of course. But it is also important that one should try to discuss with what is currently going on in a different domain. Let's say, hey, for example, artificial intelligence is a hip term now. Everyone wants to know what is happening there. But you read a blog, you read something, couple of concepts of what is happening. And if you know a person, if you know a friend who is also interested in listening more about it or reading more about it, discuss this with them. You will realize that your brains will automatically try to make connections, I will bring you ideas, so many ideas that even you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. So it is very much important that you should discuss and brainstorm ideas with people who are also excited by what you're studying, and that could lead you to interesting ideas in your own field of study, and who knows, maybe that could lead you to, that could put you on a path to research as well. So these are the important do's that I would recommend for any student in their bachelor's. And now let's look at some don'ts. Well, I know certain people who had very high CGPA. I'm not like 9.5 CGPA, but they mainly focused on just reading the concepts, putting it on the paper, and getting the score. Yes, they also understood the concept. That's why they were able to write it on the paper. But once they have written it on the paper and they got the score, they could not retain that knowledge for a very long time, and because of that, I personally had seen some people who struggle to do well in their job, who struggle to get a job sometimes. So for all these things, it could be ironical. You have a CGPA of 9.8, but you're struggling to do well in your job. Well, so what is going wrong there? We have to look in that perspective as well, and then one could see that if one is focusing more on just getting the score but not on practically implementing the concepts, that could be the disastrous part that they are putting themselves in. So don't just focus on CGPA, but also try to focus more on the practical side of your studies. And also, is too much fun really needed? Well, I, I understand like bachelor's is a time when one want to have a lot of fun with their friends, but be mindful that it's not about only studies, but you also have to take care of yourself. And what many of my friends, in the name of friends, in the name of fun, in the name of something to be proud of, or they thought of that, some have even lost their lives because of that, because they had too much fun. So road accident was a thing, or having too much fun on the ocean. So there are lots of scenarios where too much fun could actually be fatal also. So think about it. Yes, fun is important, having a good time is important, but also zoom out and have a broader perspective. Is it really needed? What does it achieve? What does it serve me? Does it help me to push forward in my life? So think though, please do think about it as well. And yeah, and we, in the name of relaxation, or in the name of just letting it out, people, it's very easy to switch to movies, to watch a movies, or watch TikToks or Instagram or YouTube videos and all this thing. I do that also, I agree. I'm not like a saint or anything, but for your cognitive ability, what is more relaxing and also helping you in your general studies as well are different things. Like, for example, travel, getting to meet new people, going to new places. It doesn't have to be an exotic location. Even 2 streets away from your house that you have never visited could also stimulate something in your brain. And sports, for example, I noticed that people in the Netherlands are more than in India, or like from their school life itself, they actively engage in sports. Then that helps them in their studies as well. So try to engage in a sport, and if not, nothing for all, even a stroll on the street will. Like, human minds is very much subjected to different stimuli that is happening around it, so you could never know where the inspiration strike from. So instead of switching to brain draining activities, like, you could also try to do something that stimulate your brain, discuss ideas and talk technology with your friends, or even a stroll on the street. That could be more important for your cognitive ability. And the next thing I would say is, don't fall for false highs and comparison. And when I say high, what I mean is that, for example, if a person, let's say, focusing more on, let's say, like getting an Instagram, like getting gaining followers, or too much into self adoration, and that could feel like a very exciting thing, or that's what I call as a false high, because our brain plays in a different ways, and human brains are very, very subjected to this dopamine effect. So that could give us a high of, oh, things are going good, but on a broader perspective, that could not help you in your professional, or generally life in general. So don't fall for that false sky, and also don't fall for comparison. These people have these many followers, these people have these many likes, I also should work towards that. That is not a healthy habit to nurture, especially during your bachelor's, because that's where it starts right away. So if you focus on that, it could be easy to eliminate that. And don't abuse your own life and time. As I previously mentioned, I know certain people who had lost their lives because they wanted to have too much fun. So consider your life is valuable, your time is valuable. Be very, very mindful about it. Be very thoughtful about it. These are the steps that many people may not be explicitly known before wise in your bachelor's, but these are stuffs apart from studies. These are also important stuffs that one should know to make most of their bachelor's and studies. And yeah, and after my bachelor's, as I mentioned, I did my master's at TU Eindhoven. And one very, very drastic thing that I noticed during my master's is the way people actually study here, even their bachelor studies. Well, cutting edge research is very much the norm. I noticed here people, or the curriculum is designed it in such a way that they want to learn what is actually happening in their studies. They make students to read research paper, and it doesn't sound, it's not a torture or anything. It's actually a very, very fun and interesting thing to do. But since by engaging students to actively engage in the research world, uh, one could actually see how people are excited about practically implementing those concepts as well. And because of that, research and practicals goes hand in hand with each other. And it helps students to develop new things, to develop new products, to come up with new ideas. And that was a very, very drastic shift that I noticed in many of the students here. So that is one takeaway that I would like to give to you guys from my master's life. Cutting edge research is very much the norm all around the world. So as students from India, if you would like to not you don't have to do masters, or not in even in that direction, but if you want to be a competent engineer even within our country itself, it is very much important that we have to engage in what is happening in the research to understand the different requirements in the market in the world currently today. And another thing is that many people, almost all the people that I have seen, are very, very responsible, and they put their heart to make stuffs work. It's not like giving reasons, procrastinating stuffs, or just randomly giving reason to avoid something. No, it's not like that. When you are an engineer, one should be responsible of their work and also put their effort, put their best to make stuffs work. It could be a very, very tiring task, of course, but hey, this is an engineering life, right? And we want to do that, right? So it might be daunting at the first, but believe me, once you get the hang of it, it's actually a very, very exciting and interesting thing to do. So you can also follow it in your bachelor studies itself. Just simply try to responsible of your work, responsible of your career, and whenever you see a project or even a simple assignment in your practicals, try not to directly look in the online solution. Try to come up with your own solution. It could be a very, very bad solution. It doesn't matter. There is no good or bad in practical world. You just have to understand the concept behind it, which is far more valuable than getting the solution right. And the another thing that I noticed is that integrity and accountability are expected without explicitly said. Many people I noticed that when I mean integrity and accountability, like they do not resort to like malpractices even naturally. They really want to, if they don't know something, they would more than happy to just close the paper and go out of the exam hall than attempting copying or anything. These are small things, I understand, but as an engineer as a whole, when you pan out, these could be a habit that could be carried on in your professional life as well, or in your academic life as well. And these are very much important because integrity is expected in all of your studies, in all of your works, and it will be very much catastrophic if you try to malpractice or steal someone's work. It might be it sound like a very small thing during your bachelor's, but after your bachelor's, when you start work, when you enter the research world, it is very much important that you're integral in your work and you're accountable for your actions. So try to nurture that habit within your bachelor's itself, and that could help you to become a very good engineer in the end. Yeah. And as part of my studies, I also did a research internship at Philips Research here in the Netherlands. It was for the topic activity recognition using deep learning. But what is more interesting is the research way of working that I actually saw in people at my office during my time at Philips Research. They very much focused on fundamentals. They always said, like, if fundamentals are not strong, fixing a problem might not sustain. For example, we work on a project, we encounter something goes wrong, we suddenly look into the net, find a bit of code on the Stack Overflow and then or somewhere and just put it there and working. Well, that might work for that time. But if we don't attempt to understand what caused that problem and thereby go into the fundamentals of the problem or fundamentals of what they are building, just like a sudden fix might not work. It's like putting a plaster tape on a wound. It might sustain for that time, but for long term efficient work, it might not be helpful. So, and bachelor's is the time to get your fundamentals right. Because the entire concept of bachelor's is based on that. So get your fundamentals right, and it will help you in a very, very long term. The programming that I learned during my school was the best fundamental that I gained for my even till my masters. The concepts that I learned during my bachelor's was the fundamentals for my throughout my work now. So get your fundamentals right. It is really important. And another attitude or mentality that I noticed there was everyone was there to learn and grow and not to compete with each other. They all felt that a need to grow and learn together rather than competing, rather than having ugly competitions. Competitions are nice. I'm not telling all the competitions are bad, but the kind of the feel that one would get when they want to learn together is very, very different. They don't want to sabotage other people's work. No, nothing as or office politics, so they say, nothing as of that sort. But they were there because they wanted to be there, not because they were forced to be there. So and that is because research and practical could be very, very interesting and could be very, very exciting when we do it together, right? So we get to brainstorm ideas, we get to talk about our work, we get to, and one, you have no idea how many times I felt like when I talked with a person, I actually found solution for several of my problems or several of my projects that I was working on. So that sort of like socializing is very much important, and that is a habit that I developed there, and I very much adore even now. And yeah, again, it's reiterating what I have mentioned earlier. Brainstorming ideas is more relaxing than a YouTube clip. Like when you talk with a person, the human interaction is far, far more stimulating, and it also very relaxing than watching a YouTube clip, just blindly watching a screen and then trying to be relaxed because of it. So find the right group of people and try to discuss with them, try to engage with them. And so these are all some of the stuffs that could help you in your research and professional career as well. And afterwards, so after my studies, I actually finished my studies in January 2020, and afterwards I was kind of I was unemployed for about a year now. And because when I finished my studies, the pandemic started hitting hard really in Europe, and it was a very, very difficult time to find a job. Almost all the companies froze their recruitment. They were not ready to hire anyone, and if they wanted to hire, they did not want to hire an international because they want to go through all the visa and procedure, and everything was very confusing at that point. So they did not want to go through that additional step. So that was a very, very daunting period in my life. So it was complete unemployment for 1 year, and many of my friends who studied with me, they all started getting job, and but I was not able to find one, or something was not connecting with what I wanted to do. So that was a very daunting period. But what I did was that after a long time, I actually came across an interview, and that was about 3 or 4 months into the pandemic. And so I was very much excited about it. But what I noticed is that when I was doing the interview, I was not able to retain some of the fact from the own project that I have done. I was not able to retain some of the fact from the own studies that I have done. So that kind of scared me during the interview, because I did that project, I did that studies, I read that paper, I have worked on that, but I was not able to remember those stuffs. And after the interview, I was trying to think why it was happening. And then I noticed, after my studies, in the next 4 or 5 months, I was putting my energy and time more on getting a job, finding the job, but not on retaining the knowledge that I had gained during my studies. And that, when it hit me hard, that we may think that we will remember that, but it could be likely that we may not remember the stuffs that we want when they need them the most. So afterwards, so that incident really struck me hard, and afterwards I wanted to incorporate ways to retain the knowledge that I have gained during my studies. So that started from even simply practicing programming every day for 2 or 3 problems, and trying to do a freelance project, and trying to do another project, trying to do Coursera. It doesn't matter, but somehow we want to engage in our studies, engage in our concept in order to retain our knowledge. So during this unemployment period, so what I did was I actually started doing a freelance work, and because of that I was exposed to a new technology, and because of that new technology, now I got the job that I'm doing now. So you never know where the connection would happen. But so it is very important that we should not, what I try to say is that we should not simply sit idle, but actually try to engage in different forms of our studies to actually retain the skills that we are excited to learn about, and we have worked hard to learn also. So that is very much important. And yeah, and also pushing every day a millimeter is more powerful than one would think, and consistency is the key here. We mean, like, it's easy to think like, you just sit one day, continuously revise your project for 3 or 4 hours, and then you would think that after 2 3 weeks I would remember everything. Well, it might not work that way. Even for a very small time, if you consistently do it every day, that is more valuable than doing longer sprint on one day. So it is very important that consistency is the key. One should remember that consistency is the key, and one should focus to acquire and retain this knowledge by consistently putting time and effort every day. Even for a small time, it doesn't matter, but consistency is more important than doing longer sprints. Yes, and also after the last point is, good friends are indeed the saviors. I was fortunate to be surrounded by very valuable friends who are helping me, and trying to who are also mutually trying to find jobs, and who are also excited to come together to learn, to do a project. And because of that, it was very helpful to engage more and practically involved in my studies. And because of that, it was all of us got a job. So so good friends are indeed a savior. So try to surround yourself with the right people, and that could really help in your professional and academic career. And now, as a final slide, I would say, like, what are all the major takeaways? I know I had been kind of ranting for a long time now, but the major takeaway that I would say is, like, computer science is an ocean. There are so many different domains, so many different concepts, so many cutting edge research happening every day. So dive and research to find what you like. Engage in your class, engage with your friends, engage with your professors, to truly understand what is resonating well with you, and trying to find the concepts that you find interesting and exciting. And once you find that, try to involve more on the practical side of it as well. Try to basically do it on your own laptop, do it on your own system, and try to recreate what they have mentioned there. And it doesn't have to be a polished, like a nice version, but the mistakes that you do and the ways that you take to fix those mistakes, those are the valuable part, and not the end product itself. So try to engage and practically engage in your studies for better understanding of your studies itself. And practice is the sole key for long-term retainment of knowledge. Yes, consistency and practice. Be consistent and practice every day. Even half an hour practice or 1 hour practice of coding every day is far valuable than doing just sitting on one day and do something for 4 or 5 hours. That may not help you to retain what you are learning, but smaller portions of every day, that could help you to do that. And yeah, consistent efforts are far more valuable than short sprints. So these are all the major takeaways that I would say one has to follow. Yeah. So from my bachelor's, I actually got very much inspired from many of my professors, and I was lucky to be surrounded by the right friends. And because of them, it laid the foundation for my master's life. And from my master's, I got exposed to a new world of studies, new world of research, and how practical way of studying is very much important to become an engineer. And I was lucky to implement that during my unemployment period, during my job search period also. And now it led me to where I am now. And so be consistent, practice every day, and that could help you to achieve your dream. Yes, thank you.
Um, thank you, Vignesh.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me also thank you for readily accepting my request in spite of your busy schedule.
Yes, ma'am, it's
And
fine. Thank you.
really was highly impressive. And I hope our youngsters would this talk would have kindled them, and
Yes, ma'am.
it would have motivated them to choose their
Yes.
path
Yes,
and
ma'am.
their career in a right manner.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay, and my best wishes for your
Yes, ma'am.
successful endeavors, and
Yeah.
always our blessings will be for our students.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Vignesh.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for this opportunity and for this platform. I was really honored, and it was really fun to meet you all and do this work. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.